I did not bring a speech. I brought the original file, and one question that only needs to be asked once. Liam texted me at 9:17. Sister, I cannot take it anymore. I called him back right away. Where are you? In my room. Is the door locked? Yes. I did not say a single comforting word. I opened the flight schedule. 14 hours later, I stood outside the fence of the old house. I saw my brother on the porch in a thin hoodie, snow slanting across his face. My father stood behind the glass door, his voice steady like he was reading instructions. Stand up straight. I lifted my phone. Not to post, to save. My mother stood behind him, phone in her hand. She did not step outside. I whispered. Just loud enough for myself. This time, I am not staying silent. I kept that file for 5 years. And tonight, I brought it with me. I stood in the snow-covered parking lot in front of the community center. The snow had been cleared into 2 long ridges along the walkway, the middle pressed down by tires into a sheet of gray ice. The streetlights cast a pale yellow glow over the snow. I had just closed my car door when the glass doors of the building swung open. My mother hurried out, her coat not fully zipped, her scarf crooked to one side. She did not look around. She walked straight toward me. I stood still. She stopped a few steps away. Her breath came out in a thin cloud. What are you planning to do? It was not a real question. It was a warning. I did not answer. She stepped closer. Do not go in there with that attitude. I looked past her shoulder, saw the yellow light from the main lobby, people coming and going, laughter spilling out each time the door opened. My mother lowered her voice. She said it quickly, as if she wanted it finished before anyone could hear. 18 years ago, I was 12. A wooden cabin by a frozen lake, the surface white and flat, not a single crack. Inside, the fireplace burned low. My father stood in the middle of the room, both hands resting on the back of a chair. Our family does not take things outside. He said that and turned away. No explanation. He did not ask what I thought. I sat on the bench, both feet touching the floor, hands resting neatly on my thighs. I nodded. From that day on, I did not tell anyone what happened inside our house. At school, when a teacher asked why I was not going to summer camp, I said my family was busy. When classmates asked why I could not stay for a birthday, I said I had to go home early. When my friend's mother asked if something was wrong, I said no. I sat in the third pew at church. Long sleeves in the middle of summer. No one asked. 6 years like that. There was never a conversation about that sentence. No reminder. But every time I was about to open my mouth, I remembered it first. Our family does not take things outside. The wind moved through the parking lot. A pickup truck rolled slowly, looking for a space. The doors of the community center opened and closed again and again. Inside, the fundraiser had begun. Tonight was the biggest event in town. My father would receive an honorary badge. His name was printed on the sponsor board by the entrance. His photo hung in the lobby, beside those who had been honored before. My mother looked at me for a few more seconds. You already left, she said. Do not come back just to destroy things. She turned and walked quickly inside. The glass doors closed behind her. I stood alone in the snow-covered parking lot. Yellow light spilled through the glass. Inside, people were laughing, shaking hands, getting ready to applaud. I looked at the main doors for a few more seconds. Then I walked toward them. My father never yelled. He did not slam the table. He did not throw things. He stood straight, both hands behind his back, speaking slowly and clearly. On the porch, I opened the door. Snow covered the steps. I knelt down, my knees pressing into the cold wood. He stood inside behind the glass door, watching. A stopwatch sat on the table by the door. 30 minutes, both hands on my thighs, back straight, eyes down, no talking, no crying. The wind moved across the porch. Snow blew against my pant legs. I held the position. If I leaned back against the wall, the door opened immediately. Straighten your back. If I lifted a hand to wipe my tears, the door opened. Hands down. He never raised his voice. He never cursed. He spoke like he was correcting someone's posture in a gym. When the timer went off, He opened the door. I stood up and went inside. No one mentioned what had just happened. I sat at the dinner table. He went back to the news. My mother added more mashed potatoes to my plate. Dinner continued as usual. That was training. I made a small mistake, forgot to wipe the kitchen counter, answered a question too slowly, looked away while he was speaking. There were no long arguments, just one sentence. On the porch. Winter lasted nearly 6 months in my town. Heavy snow, strong wind. I kept a coat hanging right by the door, because I knew I would need it. I put it on myself before he had to remind me. My younger brother, Liam, stood in the living room watching. He held his game controller. The TV screen still lit up the room. He was never sent outside. Liam spilled orange juice on the table. My father handed him paper towels. Wipe it up. Liam talked back. My father told him to lower his voice. No one went to the porch. One time, Liam slammed his bedroom door. My father knocked twice and spoke through the crack. 5 minutes later, they came downstairs for dinner, like nothing had happened. I knelt on the porch for 30 minutes because I said I do not agree. Boys need to be strong, he said at another dinner, when Liam was allowed to stay up later. Girls need discipline. That sentence was repeated many times. No one argued. My mother kept clearing the table. I kept eating. After each time on the porch, my mother opened the door. She handed me a towel, sometimes a cup of warm water. She did not say much. He wants you to be better. She said it like that was explanation enough. There was no yelling in our house. No neighbors knocking to ask questions. Everything ran on schedule. 6 o'clock dinner, 8 o'clock TV off, 9 o'clock bed. I knew the exact spot where my knees touched the wooden boards on the porch. There was a small scratch right where I usually knelt. I placed both knees on that same mark every time, never off-center. One night the snow fell heavier than usual. I knelt down and sank deeper into it. He opened the door and handed me a thin rubber mat. So you cannot say I am unreasonable. And kept kneeling. The stopwatch kept running. After a while I stopped crying. I kept my face neutral when I walked back inside. I hung up my coat, placed my shoes in the exact spot. I sat down at the table or on the couch depending on the time. He asked one question about homework. I answered briefly. No one mentioned the porch. Liam grew older. He joined the hockey team. My father drove him to practice, stood by the rink with his arms crossed, watching. I stayed home, washing dishes. Once, Liam asked quietly as I walked past. You going out again? I nodded. He shrugged and turned back to the screen. One night, I knelt on the porch while the house next door turned on their Christmas lights. Holiday music drifted out from their window. I looked over, then looked down. The glass door of my house reflected a faint image of me, back straight, hands on my thighs. When the timer went off, the door opened. I stood up, went inside, took off my coat, hung it up. My father never called it punishment. He called it preparation, conditioning, training. In our house, there was no yelling, just a short command, a door opening, and 30 minutes on the porch. Physical education took place in the old high school gym. Polished wooden floors, the smell of rubber from running shoes, the steady echo of basketballs against the backboard. I wore long sleeves, like every day. Coach Parker blew his whistle and lined the class up. He walked past each student, checking push-up form. When he reached me, he paused longer than usual. Naomi, roll up your sleeve. I did not answer right away. He looked directly at me, just checking. I pushed my sleeve up halfway. A bruise sat just below my wrist, faded into a light blue purple. He did not touch it. He just looked. Then he wrote something on his clipboard. After class, he called me over. Did you fall? I fell down the stairs. He nodded and did not argue. He said he would note it in the school medical record. I signed to confirm. A sheet of paper went into an envelope. That afternoon, the school office called home. I heard the phone ringing as I stepped through the door. My father picked up. Yes, this is Richard Hayes. About 10 seconds of silence. No, nothing serious. She is clumsy. He hung up, looked at me. Be more careful next time. The next day, I was called to the guidance office. Mrs. Simmons sat behind her desk, both hands resting on an open file. Naomi, I need to ask you a few questions. Yes. Did anyone hurt you? No. Do you feel safe at home? Yes. She looked at me for a few more seconds. Wrote one more line in the file. Then said that by policy she had to forward a report to the district. A week later, no one came to the house. No formal interview. No police knocking on the door. My father had once worked in state law enforcement. He knew the name of the person assigned to the file. I heard him talking in the kitchen one evening. Just a misunderstanding. A soft laugh from the other end of the line. The file can be closed. 2 days later, Mrs. Simmons called me in again. We reviewed everything. She closed the folder. There is not enough evidence to open an investigation. I nodded and left the office. In class, everything stayed the same. A math test on Friday. A history paper due Monday. The team preparing for the weekend game. No one mentioned the envelope that had been sent. A month later, Coach Parker noticed another mark, this time below my collarbone. He did not ask in front of the class. He spoke quietly. Fell again. Yes. He wrote it down. A second report was sent. The process repeated. Office. The same questions. The same answers. The file was forwarded. Then it stopped. One afternoon, I walked past the main office and saw my father standing there talking with the vice principal. They shook hands. The glass door closed behind them. That week, there were no more questions. No formal investigation. No social worker at the door. No family meeting. The file was archived. The school was not naive. They saw. They documented. They followed procedure. But procedure has limits. And my father knew exactly where those limits were. At home, he never mentioned the school. He set his car keys on the table, took off his coat, turned on the evening news. You need to be more careful, he said at dinner. I nodded. Spring came. The snow melted. The school year continued. One morning, I passed the bulletin board in the hallway. My father's name was listed as a sponsor for the community safety event. Next to it was the retired police logo. I paused for a few seconds, then kept walking. The school had documented, reported, forwarded the file, but nothing changed. After that, I stopped waiting for someone to ask the right question again. I started keeping everything: medical notes, emails from the school office, copies of the reports that had been sent. I did not tell anyone. I just stored them. If one day someone asked again, I would not only have answers, I would have paperwork. At 17, I worked the evening shift at a gas station off the highway. The shift ran from 4 in the afternoon to 11 at night. I stood behind the counter, scanning barcodes, selling cigarettes, coffee, lottery tickets. The smell of gasoline mixed with the smell of hot dogs turning on the warmer. I was paid by direct deposit. I did not hide cash. The money went into an account in my name, with my own debit card. I kept the statements in my email. A week after my first paycheck, I bought a small camera online, the kind meant for inside a house, about the size of a fist, with a memory card. I paid with my card. It was delivered to the shared mailbox on the porch. I installed the camera on the bookshelf in my bedroom. The angle faced the door and my desk. I did not turn the volume up high. I left it on automatic recording. I was not trying to capture violence. I was not waiting for an incident. I let the camera run in the evenings. When my door opened, when he stood in the doorway, some sentences were recorded clearly. You are never good enough. Do not embarrass me. In this house, I decide. His voice steady, not loud, not soft, no yelling, nothing thrown. I downloaded the files to my laptop, saved multiple copies, one on the computer, one on an external drive, one sent to a secondary email. At the same time, I applied to a journalism program in Seattle. I used a computer at the public library to complete the application. I requested transcripts, a recommendation letter from my English teacher. I submitted a personal essay about local media and community responsibility. I did not mention my family. In March, I received the acceptance email. Partial scholarship. The rest I would have to cover myself. The email arrived at 8 at night. I was on shift at the gas station. I read it on my phone, did not react. I replied to confirm receipt. That night at home, I opened my laptop to read the letter again. My father walked into my room without knocking. The screen was still open. He read the subject line, said nothing for a few seconds. Seattle. I did not answer. He closed the laptop. Did not tear anything. Did not raise his voice. The next morning, I tried to use my debit card at a grocery store to buy breakfast before school. The machine declined. I logged into the banking app. The account was frozen. That evening, he placed my card on the dinner table. Money under this roof has to be controlled. He did not mention the school. Did not mention the scholarship. He only talked about money. I kept working. I asked to be paid by check instead of direct deposit. I opened another account at a different bank, using my secondary email and the mailing address of a trusted friend. I bought a late-night bus ticket to Seattle with cash. The 11:45 route. The ride would take nearly 14 hours. On the day I left, I packed my clothes into a small suitcase. Not much. Laptop. External drive. A printed copy of the acceptance letter. The camera stayed on the shelf, the light off. I did not leave a note. I did not make an announcement. I walked out of the house at 10 that night. Liam was in his room. The living room TV played the news. My father sat in his chair, did not look up when I opened the door. I rolled the suitcase down the steps, closed the door behind me, did not turn back. The night bus stopped at a station 4 miles from the house. I handed my ticket to the driver. He tore the stub and gave the rest back. I stepped onto the bus, chose a seat by the window, placed the suitcase overhead. The bus pulled away at 11:45. My phone screen lit up once, then went dark. I did not open it again. The camera in my room was still there, but the files had already been backed up. I got off the bus in Seattle at 6 in the morning. It was still dim outside. The station smelled like coffee and engine oil. I pulled my suitcase down, turned on my phone, checked the enrollment confirmation email. I took a taxi to the school's temporary dorm. The first week, I submitted paperwork, picked up my student ID, registered for classes. I applied for a part-time job at the campus library. Evening shift from 7 to 10. On weekends, I waited tables at a small restaurant near Capitol Hill. Saturday morning shift, Sunday afternoon shift. I kept my work schedule in an app on my phone. I set early alarms, turned in assignments on time. I did not call home. My mother texted for the first time after 3 weeks. "Are you okay?" I read it and did not reply. 2 months later. "Your father is asking about you." No reply. 3 months later. "Your father misses you." I turned off notifications from that number. The messages still came, but they did not show on my main screen. I moved dorm rooms after the first semester. I used the new address for all bank documents. I kept the same phone number, but I did not call home. I saved every bill, every transcript, every work contract. I filed to renew my scholarship. I completed financial aid forms each year. The summer of my second year, I did not go home. I stayed in Seattle and picked up extra shifts at the restaurant. I stood behind the register, scanned cards, packed takeout orders. I took an internship at a local newsroom. I learned how to record audio, store files, back up data. My mother kept texting. "You should come home for Thanksgiving. The house is still the same. Your father does not say much, but he misses you." I did not reply. In my third year, I moved into a shared apartment with 2 other students. I signed the utilities in my own name. I paid rent by transfer on time. I kept every receipt in a separate folder on my laptop. I did not send the new address home. In my 4th year, I took on more hours at the newsroom. I was assigned short news pieces. I turned them in on deadline. I attended morning meetings. I took notes. I saved files. My mother texted less often. About once every 2 months. "Can you call me?" I did not call. In my 5th year, I graduated. I attended the ceremony. I wore the gown, walked across the stage, received my diploma. No family sat in the audience. I took photos with classmates. I posted one picture on social media, did not tag anyone. I accepted a full-time position at a small newsroom in the city. I rented a studio apartment. I placed my desk by the window. I hung a calendar on the wall. My mother's number stayed in my contacts. I did not delete it. I just did not open the messages. One October evening, while I was editing an article on my laptop, My phone vibrated. Unknown number. I did not answer. A text came in after that. Not from my mother. From Liam. Sister. I looked at the screen for a few seconds. A second message. Sister, I cannot take it anymore. I set my laptop aside. I opened the messages. No period, no explanation, just two short lines. I did not reply right away. I called. The phone rang 3 times. Liam answered. Heavy breathing on the other end. Sister, where are you? In my room. Is anyone near you? No. I looked at the clock on the wall. 9:17 p.m. Seattle time. It was an hour later there. Keep talking. There was silence for a few seconds. I cannot take it anymore. I opened my laptop. I searched the old archive folder. Audio files, copies of school reports, the documents I had kept. I did not say much. Are you safe? I do not know. Is your door locked? Yes. Keep your phone next to you. I stood up and grabbed my coat. I opened the airline website. I checked the earliest flight back to my old town. I wrote down the departure time. The phone stayed on speaker. I heard Liam's breathing steady a little. Sister. Yes. Are you coming back? I looked at the booking screen. Yes. I did not ask anything else over the phone. I did not text my mother. I did not give notice. I booked the ticket. After 5 years of not returning, I knew I was going back for something other than a visit. I landed at the local airport in the late afternoon. Snow covered the parking lot. The digital sign outside showed -15 degrees Celsius. I pulled my suitcase through the sliding doors. Liam was not there. I had not told him my arrival time. I took a taxi to the old neighborhood. Before the car turned onto the familiar street, my phone vibrated. A message from my mother. Do not come inside right away. I did not reply. The taxi stopped a short distance from the house. I got out and pulled my suitcase over the packed snow. As I got closer to the fence, I heard the front door open. I looked toward the porch. Liam was standing outside. No heavy coat, just a thin hoodie. His arms straight at his sides, his back lightly against the wooden post. My father stood inside the doorway, the door partly open. Stand up straight, he said. I did not step into the yard. I stood at the curb. Liam did not speak. I looked at the time on my phone. 6:12 p.m. The wind picked up. Snow blew across his face. Liam did not move. The door opened a little wider. My father looked out at the porch, then closed it again. 6:19. My mother appeared behind the glass door. She did not step outside. She held her phone. I saw her holding it at chest level, slightly angled to the side. Not pointed directly at Liam, but enough to record. She stood just inside the door, her shadow long across the floor. 6:31. Liam was still on the porch. I stepped a few paces closer. I did not enter the gate. The door opened. 10 more minutes, my father said. He could not see me from that angle. I stayed where I was. 6:52. The door opened again. Inside. Liam walked in. The door closed. I moved to the gate. My mother opened the front door just as I put my hand on the handle. You are here. I did not ask anything. I walked in. Liam went straight up the stairs. My father looked at me, not surprised. You came back to visit? Yes. He nodded. We will talk later. My mother walked into the kitchen. I followed. She placed her phone on the table. The screen was still lit. You need to see this. She opened the photo library, selected a video, 2 minutes and 11 seconds. I watched. The frame shook slightly. The angle from inside the house, looking out to the porch. Liam standing in the cold, snow falling, wind blowing. My father's voice clear. Stand still. Another time. Lift your head. Do not expect anyone to pity you. The video ended when the door opened. I set the phone down on the table. Keep that file, I said. Send it to me now. I checked my inbox. The file downloaded successfully. I forwarded it to 2 other addresses of mine. I saved it to the external drive in my suitcase. I did not ask her why she recorded it. I did not ask how many times before. I went into the living room. Liam sat on the couch, looking at the floor. Are you okay? I am okay. I nodded. I opened my laptop, created a new folder, named it with the date, saved the video file inside. I wrote down the time, the temperature displayed on the airport sign, and the moment the door opened. This was no longer a story told from memory, no longer an answer in a school office. 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Clear image, clear audio, the timestamp visible in the corner. I closed the laptop. This time, no one would need to ask me what happened. I was no longer a freshman. I was a junior reporter at a local newsroom. I had a press badge, a small recorder, and a habit of cross-checking every detail before filing a piece. I did not publish anything about my family. I did not write a single line for the paper. I scheduled an appointment with an attorney who specialized in protecting minors in Anchorage. His office was on the second floor of an old building near the county courthouse. A small sign, no decoration. I placed my document folder on the table. "I am not here to tell a story," I said. "I am here to ask about the law." The attorney read each document. The high school reports. The note that said pattern suggests non-accidental trauma. The email confirming receipt of the file. The letter closing the investigation due to insufficient evidence. He nodded. "Alaska is a one-party consent state," he said. "If you are part of the conversation, you have the right to record it." I placed the external drive on the table, opened my laptop, opened the folder. The snow video. 2 minutes and 11 seconds. The older bedroom recordings. Sentences not shouted, but clear. "You are never good enough. Do not embarrass me." The attorney did not comment on emotion. He asked about dates. He asked about temperature. He asked if I had the original files. "I do." He took notes. "I do not advise you to make anything public before you are prepared," he said. "But if you choose to speak, speak with facts." I nodded. I returned to Seattle to finish a few assignments at the newsroom. I did not tell my editor why I had gone to Alaska. I requested 2 days off. I carried my laptop, the external drive, and printed copies of the documents with me. The town fundraiser had been announced publicly. The Veterans Association was hosting it. The primary sponsor was my father's company. Local press would be there, photojournalists, a regional television crew. I reviewed the event schedule posted on the city website. Opening remarks. Award presentation. Final question and answer session. I did not prepare a speech. I prepared a question. I printed another copy of the old school report. I clipped it neatly. I arranged everything in chronological order. I checked the video file again. I backed it up once more to an online storage service. I called the attorney. "If I ask a question publicly," I said, "and I have evidence." "You have the right to ask," he replied, "and you have the right to present evidence if it is lawful." That evening, I wore a long coat and low-heeled boots. I did not bring a large camera. I carried my phone and a printed set of documents in my bag. The community center was brightly lit. The parking lot was full. I walked through the main entrance like any other resident attending the event. Inside, there was black coffee, sugar cookies, familiar handshakes. My father stood near the stage, greeting people one by one. He wore a dark blue suit and a red tie, the kind of smile made for photographs. I stood in the back of the room. I did not step forward. I did not draw attention. The remarks began. His name was announced. Applause filled the room. He stepped onto the stage, received the badge, shook hands with the association president. I scanned the room. A local reporter stood to the left of the stage, a camera on a tripod, the recording light on. The question and answer session began. One person asked about a new construction project. Another asked about a scholarship fund for youth. I waited for my turn. I raised my hand. The moderator nodded. "I have a question," I said, my voice steady, not loud, not shaking. I did not come to tell a story. I came to ask a question. My father stood at the podium, the stage lights falling directly across his shoulders and the front of his suit jacket. The small metal badge pinned neatly in place caught the light. The host had just shaken his hand, repeating lines about service, discipline, and building the next generation. The room had stood to applaud, chairs scraping lightly across the wooden floor, Coffee cups set down on round tables covered in white cloth. He bowed his head just enough. Not too long. The local newspaper photographer's camera flashed repeatedly. The television camera to the right of the stage still glowed red. The question and answer portion began. A man in the front row asked about the youth fund. A woman asked about expanding the training facility. My father answered smoothly, voice even, without looking at notes. I raised my hand. The moderator scanned the room, then pointed toward me at the back. Yes, in the back. I stood up where I was. I did not move closer. Do you believe that disciplining a minor by forcing them to stand outside in negative 15-degree weather is appropriate? For a few seconds, no one moved. People seated near me turned around. A chair creaked as someone shifted. My father looked toward me. He narrowed his eyes slightly, as if confirming who had spoken. Then he smiled. She has always been dramatic. A few scattered laughs broke out. Not many. The moderator glanced toward the technical table. I did not argue. I did not raise my voice. I have a video. I walked to the tech table. A staff member near the projector looked at me, waiting for an explanation. Just play this file. I connected my phone to the cable. The large screen behind the stage shifted from the event logo to black. Then the image appeared. The video began. 2 minutes and 11 seconds. The frame was shot from inside the house, looking out to the porch. Heavy snow falling. The porch light on. Liam standing outside. Thin hoodie. Arms at his sides. Not moving. My father's voice came through clearly. Stand still. Wind crossed the phone microphone. A faint hiss in the background. Do not lower your head. Someone in the middle rows cleared their throat softly. No one spoke. The screen captured the electronic street sign showing negative 15 degrees Celsius. The timestamp in the upper corner showed the seconds passing. 1 minute, 1 minute 30, 1 minute 50. The door opened on screen. My father's voice again. 10 more minutes. No edits. No background music. No subtitles. Just 2 minutes and 11 seconds of white snow and a child standing in it. The video ended. The screen went dark. The hall had no applause. No loud murmurs. Just a dense silence. My father remained at the podium, the badge still on his lapel. He was no longer smiling. The moderator lifted the microphone, then set it back down. The television reporter adjusted the camera angle without turning it off. I returned to my spot, phone in my hand. I am not adding commentary, I said. I am repeating the question. I looked toward the stage. Do you believe that is appropriate? No one interrupted. No one rescued him with another question. A member of the organizing board stood from his seat near the side curtain. He spoke briefly with the host. The microphone came back on. We will pause the question and answer session. No one left the room immediately. Some people looked down at their tables. Some looked at the stage. Reporters began writing notes. My father stepped back from the podium. He said nothing. I stood there for a few more seconds, then sat down. My phone still in my hand. The video file still open in the gallery. The stage lights remained on. But there was no more applause. I remained standing at the back of the hall as the screen behind the stage faded to black. No one shouted. No one applauded. There was no chaos like people imagine when the truth is exposed in public. Just eyes turning from one person to another, backs straightening, and a room full of adults realizing they had just watched something that could not be dismissed as minor. My father was still at the podium, the badge still pinned to his lapel. He did not lower his head. He did not step down. He looked out over the audience as if waiting for someone to rescue him with a familiar phrase, something like misunderstanding or taken out of context. No one spoke. The president of the Veterans Association stood up. He was the one who had shaken my father's hand 10 minutes earlier. Gray suit, silver hair, polished shoes. He did not look at me. He looked straight at the stage. His voice was not raised, not defensive, not conclusive, just procedural. In this town, procedure meant files, minutes, closed-door meetings. It meant this was not over. A former teacher stood up from the third row. I recognized her immediately, even after years. She had taught physical education at the high school. She did not ask for the floor to give a long speech. I filed a report once, she said. The room turned toward her. not out of curiosity. Because they knew she was careful, not someone who sought attention. I documented injuries. I followed protocol. She did not describe details. She did not assign blame. She did not add emotion. She only restated the action. I still have a copy. The local reporter lifted his pen. The camera shifted toward her. No one interrupted. My father tightened his hands behind his back. The posture he used whenever he wanted to appear composed. He did not react sharply. He waited. I said nothing more. I had asked. I had shown the video. The rest did not require my direction. My mother stood up. She had been seated near the aisle on the right since the beginning. No one called her name. She stepped forward on her own. The sound of her shoes against the floor carried more clearly than usual. She took the microphone, both hands holding it tightly. She did not look at me. She did not look at her husband. I was afraid. 3 words. No explanation. No retelling of the past. No apology directed at anyone specific. I was afraid. The room grew heavier. No one asked her to continue. No one cut her off. There was no loud whispering. Just the kind of silence adults hold when they understand something has been hidden too long. My father moved toward the microphone. "This is a family matter," he said. "We should not turn it into a stage." His voice remained even, not shaking. He spoke as if addressing a town council meeting. The association president shook his head. "When there is evidence, and when there is confirmation, this is no longer private." The sentence was delivered slowly, clearly, not aggressive, not dramatic, but firm enough to draw a line. A reporter called out from below. "Do you deny the content of the video that was just shown?" The question was direct. No detour. My father looked toward the camera. He adjusted his sleeve, stretching a few extra seconds. "I do not agree with how this is being interpreted," he said. "Discipline is not abuse." No one argued immediately. But no one nodded either. My mother set the microphone down on the table. She had said her part. She stepped off the stage without turning back. The association president turned to the organizing committee. "The ceremony ends here. The board will meet in emergency session." There was no closing music. No group photo. People stood slowly. Chairs scraped lightly. Coats were taken down. A few people looked at me as they passed. No one raised their voice. In a small town, people do not need to shout to understand what just happened. My father removed the badge from his lapel. He placed it on the table beside the podium. No one asked him to. He did it himself. The sound of metal touching the tabletop carried clearly through the room as it emptied. The television camera stayed on for a few more minutes, as if waiting for one final sentence that might repair something. None came. I stood up last, my phone still in my hand, the video still intact in the folder, unedited, without captions. No one shouted. No one applauded. Just one sentence spoken into a microphone. I was afraid. And in a town accustomed to silence to keep things looking calm, those 3 words broke more than any piece of evidence. 2 days after the fundraiser, the youth club where my father coached issued an official notice. He was suspended pending verification. The email went out to parents on Monday morning, right when people usually check their phones while pouring coffee. There were no direct accusations, just temporary suspension to ensure safety and transparency. In the United States, that is how people speak when attorneys are already involved. That same week, police opened an investigation into alleged child abuse. Not because I shouted, not because social media erupted, because there was video, old reports, and witnesses. Procedure began. Documents were filed. Appointments were scheduled. I did not publish an article. I did not write a feature about myself. I let the process follow its legal path. If I chose to ask publicly, I had to accept that the system would answer. Liam moved to Seattle to live with me. There was no dramatic scene, no tearful packing. We booked a one-way ticket. I met him at SeaTac on a gray afternoon, light rain falling the way it often does. He carried one suitcase and a backpack. "Is that enough?" "Enough," he said. I did not ask more. My 1-bedroom apartment became a 2-person apartment. I gave Liam the bedroom. I moved to the sofa. We bought a small study desk from IKEA, assembled it ourselves. It took 3 hours because we misread the instructions. like any ordinary American family. My mother filed for legal separation 3 weeks later. I learned through my attorney, not by phone. She did not call. She did not send long messages. It was simply a petition filed with the county court. The town split into two sides. Not officially, but clearly. At the diner near the post office, people lowered their voices when mentioning my family name. At church, some avoided my eyes when I returned to retrieve old documents. Others shook my hand longer than usual. Some called me brave. Some called me destructive. In a small town, you can be both at once. My father did not apologize. He did not call. He did not text. He did not send an email. When we finally met in his attorney's office, he looked at me across the long wooden table as if I were a business partner who had breached a contract. His voice was not raised, not angry, just declarative, as if stating something obvious. I did not sit up straighter to prove strength. I simply answered. I protected the family. Nothing more. My attorney took notes. His attorney turned pages in a file. No one revisited the past with emotion. Only with documents. In Seattle, Liam started at a new school. He rode the bus, headphones on, hoodie pulled low. I let him introduce himself however he wanted. No one here knew our family history. No one asked about a wooden cabin or a fundraiser. The police investigation continued. Not fast. Not slow. At the pace of procedure. They took statements. They reviewed the video. They contacted former teachers. They did what they were required to do. The town remained divided. On local social media, people argued under a brief article about a matter under verification. No one used dramatic language, but everyone understood. My father still did not apologize. He told an acquaintance, and the comment reached me eventually. She betrayed the family. I did not respond publicly. I did not post a long explanation about motives. I had already spoken my sentence in the attorney's office. I protected the family. That night, I walked back to the apartment. Seattle was cold, but there was no snow. Light rain, streetlights reflecting on wet pavement. Liam sat at the new desk, working on math homework. He looked up. You okay, sis? I am okay, I said. I hung my coat on the hook, made tea, checked my email. Life does not pause for an investigation. One thing changed. I stood at the window watching the rain fall. The temperature outside was low, but I did not pull the blanket up to my neck the way I used to. For the first time, I did not feel cold. I am not telling this story to teach anyone how to live. I am telling it because some families do not need yelling, they only need rules. Rules sound clean, correct, civilized, until they turn a child into someone standing still in the snow and turn a warm house into a place where no one is allowed to name the truth. In that kind of family, violence does not always leave fingerprints. Sometimes it leaves schedules, posture, commands, and a door that opens just enough for the order to pass through. Outsiders see order, dinner on time, coats hung straight, polite parents, well-behaved children. Small towns like things that look orderly, because order makes it easy to believe and easy to look away. But truth is not tidy. It requires paperwork, original files, timestamps in the corner of a screen, someone willing to ask one clear question in a crowded room, and willing to stay silent long enough for the evidence to speak. There is also a kind of fear that is quiet. It stands behind a glass door holding a phone instead of stepping outside. It whispers, "Do not embarrass us," as if reputation matters more than a child shaking in the cold. And then one day, that silence carries a cost. Not in tears, but in investigations, suspensions, separation filings, and a town forced to look directly at what it once called private. If you have listened this far and are still here, then this story reached you in some way. I do not need you to agree or take sides. I just want to know what you think. Where do you believe the line is between discipline and harm? If there has ever been a moment in your life when you had to stand up because no one else would, leave a short comment. And if you want to follow stories told with facts and evidence like this, subscribe so we can continue together.